Admiral Laura Evans stood on the bridge of the massive carrier Independence as her fleet exited hyperspace. 200 human warships appeared suddenly near the Council's central world, their arrival unannounced and unexpected. "All ships report successful transition," said her tactical officer, Kyle Bennett. "Defense Grid is tracking us but not targeting." Laura nodded. She was 42 years old, with short brown hair and eyes that had seen more stars than most humans in history. The last 5 years she had spent building this fleet in secret, far from Council sensors. "We're being hailed by Council Defense Command," Kyle reported. "They sound surprised." "Put them on screen," Laura ordered. The image of the Council's supreme military commander appeared. The Ardaxian officer's 8 eyes widened at the sight of a human. "Admiral Evans," he said, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Your arrival is unexpected." Laura allowed herself a small smile. "Is it? Your diplomatic corps has been sending requests for military assistance against the Vraks for the past month. We're simply responding." Just like that. After how the Council treated humanity. "The Vraks don't care about our past disagreements, Commander. They'll consume your worlds and ours equally if they can. We understand what matters most." On the view screen behind Laura, more human ships continued to appear. Massive dreadnoughts unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Specialized vessels with technology that had been developed far from prying eyes. Fighter carriers that could launch hundreds of small craft. The Council commander struggled to maintain his composure. "We didn't think you would come." "Then you still don't understand humans very well," Laura replied. "We help when needed, but we have conditions." The commander straightened. "Name them." "Human worlds remain independent. Our expansion continues, though we'll negotiate fair boundaries. And humanity gets equal voice on the Council. No more demands without discussion." Relief showed clearly on the alien's face. "Those terms can be arranged. The full Council is meeting now. They'll want to speak with you immediately." Laura nodded. "Send the coordinates. I'll shuttle down." After the communication ended, Laura turned to her second-in-command. "Deploy the fleet in defensive formation. And bring the special weapons systems online. The Vraks will be here sooner than the Council realizes." 2 hours later, Admiral Evans stood in the same Council chamber where Daniel Wright had received the ultimatum 5 years before. The same alien leaders now looked at her with hope instead of suspicion. "Humanity answers your call for aid," Laura told them simply. "The Vraks are a threat to all intelligent life. We've faced them before, and we'll face them again, together this time." High Counselor Zextrol stepped forward. "We must ask, where have you been these 5 years? What we've detected of your activity suggested massive building projects, but hidden from our sight." Laura smiled. "We've been preparing, building ships, training crews, developing weapons specifically designed to fight the Vraks. We remembered them from the ancient war records, even if the Council had grown complacent." "You knew they would return?" asked Ambassador Krith. "We calculated the possibility. Humans plan for the worst while hoping for the best." As the Council meeting continued, human ships moved into defensive positions around key systems. Supply vessels brought advanced weapons for Council forces. Military advisors began coordination with alien commanders. In orbit above the Council world, Kyle Bennett watched from the Independence as more human fleets arrived from hidden shipyards. "Ironic, isn't it?" said his fellow officer. "The Council demanded peace by trying to cage us. We created peace by walking away. And now we return to fight their war." Kyle shook his head. "Not their war. Our war. All of ours. Some things are worth fighting for, even alongside those who once threatened you." As the massive fleet prepared for the coming battle, the galaxy witnessed something remarkable. Humans returning not for revenge, but to save those who had rejected them. And this time, the Council would listen. Fleet Captain Olivia Grant stood at the viewport of the UES Dauntless, watching the massive Krell warship approach. The vessel's jagged, angular design reflected its creator's mindset, practical, aggressive, and utterly without ornament. After 3 years of fighting the Vorgan collective alone, humanity needed allies, even ones as difficult as the Krell. "Ready for this, Captain?" asked Commander Alan Fox, her executive officer. "As ready as anyone can be for dinner with 8-foot reptilian warriors who think humans are soft," Olivia replied, straightening her dress uniform. "But we need their firepower." The shuttle journey to the Krell flagship was tense. Lieutenant Jack Murphy, sitting across from Olivia, stared silently at the deck plates. His record showed 38 combat missions, 17 with special commendation. Yet tonight, the veteran soldier seemed nervous. "Problem, Lieutenant?" Olivia asked quietly. Murphy shook his head. "Just remembering my last encounter with the Krell, ma'am. Before we were allies." The Krell reception hall gleamed with polished metal and battle trophies. Commander Vrax, a towering figure with slate-gray scales and yellow eyes, greeted them with a formal bow. "The Imperium welcomes the warriors of Earth," Vrax announced. "Your species has shown unexpected resilience against the Vorgan filth. We appreciate your willingness to form this alliance," Olivia replied diplomatically. "Earth looks forward to fighting alongside the Krell." Dinner was served on long metal tables. The Krell ate raw meat with surprising delicacy, while the humans picked at specially prepared dishes. The conversation flowed more easily after the third round of drinks, a potent blue liquid that burned Olivia's throat. "Your Admiral Chen mentioned your species has many." Vrax paused, searching for the word. "Religions? Beliefs in forces beyond physical reality." "Many humans follow various spiritual traditions," Olivia confirmed cautiously. Vrax made a clicking sound that the translator didn't catch. Several Krell officers exchanged looks. "Fascinating cultural remnant," said Sub-Commander Drax, a younger Krell with bright green markings along his neck. "Our ancestors once believed in spirits and other realms before we embraced rational understanding." "You still believe invisible forces guide your actions?" another Krell asked, not hiding his disbelief. Olivia chose her words carefully. "Some do, others don't. Humans embrace diversity of thought." "And you, battle soldiers?" Vrax turned to Lieutenant Murphy and the other military personnel. "Surely warriors rely on training and technology, not spirits." The human officers gave diplomatic answers, but Murphy remained silent, staring at his plate. "You are decorated extensively," Vrax said directly to Murphy. "Does the Silent One believe unseen forces guide his weapon?" Murphy looked up slowly. "I believe there's more to reality than what we can measure, Commander." The room filled with the harsh clicking sound of Krell laughter. "A warrior with a child's mind," one officer commented. "Perhaps this explains human battle tactics. Many human soldiers report unusual experiences in combat," Murphy continued, his voice steady. "Moments of inexplicable knowledge that saved lives." Vrax leaned forward. "Coincidence and heightened awareness, nothing more. The Krell eliminated such superstition generations ago. It made us stronger." "Perhaps," Murphy replied softly. "Or perhaps you've blinded yourselves to certain truths." The room went silent. Olivia shot Murphy a warning glance, but the damage was done. "We shall see whose understanding of reality prevails when we face the Vorgan together," Vrax said icily. "Your battle record suggests skill, despite your primitive beliefs." As the painful dinner concluded, Olivia noticed Murphy looking not at the Krell, but at an empty corner of the room, nodding slightly as if acknowledging someone only he could see. 3 days after the tense dinner, Lieutenant Jack Murphy found himself in the dauntless war room. Holograms displayed the mining colony on asteroid LV-426, currently under Vorgan control. Around the table stood 5 Krell special operators and Captain Grant. "The mission is straightforward," Commander Drax explained, his clawed finger tracing a path through the holographic tunnels. "We infiltrate through the maintenance shafts, eliminate Vorgan resistance, and secure the central control hub." Murphy studied the colony layout. Something felt wrong about the approach, but he couldn't pinpoint why. Lieutenant Murphy will join the Krell strike team, Captain Grant announced. His experience in close-quarters combat will be valuable. Commander Drax's yellow eyes narrowed. The human believes in ghosts. I questioned his judgment. Lieutenant Murphy has the highest combat efficiency rating in the fleet, Grant countered. Whatever he believes, his results speak for themselves. Drax made a dismissive gesture. As you wish, he will follow my commands without question. The planning session continued for another hour. When they broke for mealtime, Murphy stepped away to review the colony schematics alone. The official blueprints showed standard mining tunnels, but Murphy had learned to trust his instincts. Problem with the plans. A deep voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Krell Officer Zex, the youngest of their special operations team. Maybe, Murphy admitted. These maintenance tunnels look too regular. Mining colonies grow organically. Something's off. Zex moved closer, examining the display. You have experience with such installations. 3 extraction missions on similar colonies. Murphy pointed to several junctions. These should be chaotic, adapted over time. These look designed. A logical observation, Zex conceded, but your human tendency to see patterns where none exist could mislead you. Murphy smiled faintly. Sometimes patterns exist beyond the obvious. Like your spirits. Zex made the clicking sound of Krell mockery. Do they help you read blueprints too? Before Murphy could answer, Commander Drax returned with the others. The attack plan is finalized, Drax announced. We deploy in 6 hours. As they reviewed the final details, Murphy felt a familiar coldness at his side. He'd felt it many times before, in the moments before combat. His old squad leader, Sergeant Neil Peters, killed 3 years ago on Europa, always seemed to appear when danger loomed. I'd like to suggest an alternative approach, Murphy said suddenly. The room went silent. Drax's scales darkened with annoyance. Instead of the main maintenance shaft, we could use this secondary cooling duct. Murphy continued, pointing to a narrow passage. It's tighter but provides better cover if we're detected. Based on what analysis? Drax demanded. Murphy hesitated. Experience. Intuition. Intuition. Drax repeated coldly. The human wishes us to change our battle plan based on a feeling. Captain Grant intervened. Lieutenant Murphy's tactical instincts have proven reliable. My warriors do not follow hunches, Drax said firmly. We follow data and proven strategy. Murphy nodded slowly. Understood, Commander. I'll follow your lead. As the meeting ended, Officer Zex approached Murphy again. This intuition, is it truly just experience, or something more? Murphy looked at the young Krell thoughtfully. Would you believe me if I said it was something more? No, Zex admitted, but I find it curious that your combat record defies statistical probability. Your survival rate in high-risk operations exceeds normal parameters. Just lucky, I guess, Murphy replied with a small smile. The Krell do not believe in luck, Zex said, but his tone held a hint of uncertainty. Perhaps during this mission, I will observe how your intuition functions. Let's hope it's a boring mission with nothing to observe, Murphy said, feeling the cold presence beside him grow stronger. The dropship vibrated violently as it entered the asteroid's thin atmosphere. Inside, Lieutenant Murphy checked his combat gear one final time. Across from him, the 5 Krell warriors sat perfectly still, their scaled bodies barely moving even during turbulence. Final approach, announced the pilot. LV-426 surface in 30 seconds. Murphy felt the familiar pre-combat tension, but something else too, a heaviness in the air that he'd learned to recognize over years of combat. He wasn't alone, and it wasn't just the Krell warriors watching him with their unblinking yellow eyes. The ship landed with a thud. Commander Drax stood, his massive frame dominating the compartment. Communications will fail once we enter the deep tunnels, he reminded them. We move as a single unit, no deviations from the plan. The mining colony entrance loomed before them, a massive industrial doorway cut into the asteroid's rocky surface. The team moved efficiently through the outer sections, encountering no resistance. "Too quiet," whispered Officer Zex. Murphy nodded. The Vorgan were known for setting elaborate traps. As they passed into the main tunnel system, their comm units crackled and went silent. They were now cut off from the Dauntless, and on their own. The tunnels narrowed as they descended, forcing the bulky Krell to hunch slightly. Murphy's helmet lights swept across rough-hewn walls marked with standard mining symbols. But occasionally, he noticed strange markings, symbols that didn't match any mining code he knew. "Hold," Murphy said suddenly, raising his fist. Drax turned, irritation visible in his posture. "Why are we stopping, human?" Murphy pointed to a junction ahead. "We should go left here." "The plan specifies right," Drax countered. "The control hub is that direction." "Something's wrong down that passage," Murphy insisted. Officer Zex studied Murphy carefully. "What makes you say this?" Murphy hesitated. How could he explain he could see the faint outline of a dead miner gesturing frantically toward the left tunnel? "The airflow is wrong," he said instead. "And the dust pattern suggests recent movement to the right." Commander Drax made a dismissive sound. "We follow the plan. Right passage." The team continued, with Murphy reluctantly following. The tunnel descended sharply, opening into a large chamber filled with mining equipment. As they moved through the silent machinery, Murphy felt the cold presence growing stronger, more urgent. "Commander, we need to turn back," Murphy said firmly. This time, Drax rounded on him. "Your human fear is showing, Lieutenant. Control yourself." "It's not fear," Murphy insisted. "It's—" A sharp sound cut him off. Metal grating against metal. The team froze. "Defensive positions," Drax ordered quietly. They moved behind equipment, weapons ready. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then Officer Zex pointed to a small air vent near the ceiling. A fine dust was falling from it in a pattern that didn't match the air circulation. "Something's moving in the maintenance ducts," Zex whispered. Before anyone could respond, light suddenly flooded the chamber. Metallic sounds echoed from all sides as hidden panels slid open in the walls and ceiling. "Ambush," Drax shouted. The first Vorgan appeared from a concealed door, a chitinous creature with multiple eyes and armed tentacles. More followed, surrounding the team. Weapons fire erupted across the chamber. Murphy rolled behind a drilling machine as energy bolts struck around him. A Krell warrior cried out as he took a direct hit, his scales smoking. "Fall back to the junction," Drax ordered, providing covering fire. The team retreated under heavy fire, but when they reached the tunnel junction, they found it sealed by a security door that wasn't there before. "We're trapped," Zex announced, his weapon tracking for targets. Murphy stared down the left passage, the one he'd tried to direct them toward earlier. It remained open. "This way," he said, moving toward it. "How did you know?" Drax demanded, even as he followed. Murphy didn't answer. The ghostly miner was ahead of them now, urgently waving them forward into the darkness. The left tunnel narrowed quickly, forcing the Krell to move single file behind Murphy. The sounds of Vorgan pursuit echoed behind them, growing louder. "This passage isn't on any schematic," Commander Drax growled, his breathing heavy in the confined space. "Mining colonies always have unofficial routes," Murphy replied, eyes fixed on the ghostly figure only he could see. The spectral miner moved with urgency, occasionally looking back to ensure they followed. Officer Zex, now at Murphy's side, studied the human's face. "You move with strange confidence, Lieutenant, as if you've been here before." "Just following my instincts," Murphy answered, avoiding the Krell's piercing gaze. The tunnel opened suddenly into a vast chamber. Massive mining equipment stood silent in the darkness, creating a maze of shadows. The team took cover behind a large ore processor. "2 warriors down," Drax reported grimly. "Officer Krell wounded." We are outnumbered and cut off. The central hub should be directly above us, said Zex, checking a portable scanner. But I detect no access points. Murphy watched as the ghostly miner pointed toward a small maintenance hatch half hidden behind machinery. Without explanation, he moved toward it. Where are you going? Drax demanded. I found something. Murphy called back, already prying open the hatch with his combat knife. The Krell exchanged looks but followed. The hatch revealed a narrow service ladder leading upward. This isn't on the schematics either, Zex noted. The colony supervisor likely added it for quick access. Murphy improvised, knowing the real reason he'd found it. We can use it to reach the hub and bypass Vorgan forces. Drax hesitated, scales darkening with suspicion. How are you finding these routes, human? Before Murphy could answer, the chamber erupted with weapons fire. Vorgan forces had found them. Up the ladder. Now, Drax ordered, laying down covering fire. The team ascended rapidly. Murphy went first, following the spectral miner who climbed effortlessly through the shaft. The wounded Krell warrior came last, barely managing to climb with his injured arm. They emerged into a narrow crawl space above the main level. Murphy could see through grated flooring to the chamber below, now swarming with Vorgan soldiers. They will detect us soon, whispered Zex. This way, Murphy said, moving confidently through the darkness. The crawl space twisted through the colony's superstructure. After several minutes of tense crawling, they reached a junction with 3 possible directions. Which way to the central hub? Drax demanded, the limited space making his massive frame even more imposing. Murphy looked to his spectral guide, who pointed urgently to the left passage, away from where the hub should be. Left, Murphy said firmly. Impossible, Drax countered. The hub is to the right according to colony layout. Trust me, Murphy insisted. Left is safer. Based on what information? Drax's voice grew dangerous. Murphy made a quick decision. Listen. The vibration is different in the right passage. The Vorgan may have security systems installed. Officer Zex placed his hand on the flooring, feeling for vibrations. He's correct, Commander. Something is active in the right passage. Drax's eyes narrowed to slits, but he nodded curtly. Left, then. But my patience with your unexplained insights grows thin, human. They moved through the left passage, which abruptly ended at a ventilation shaft. Below them, Murphy could see what appeared to be the back of the central hub, unguarded and accessible. They had focused their defenses on the main entrances. Murphy explained, relief in his voice. We can breach from here and take them by surprise. A fortunate discovery, Zex commented, studying Murphy's face carefully. Too fortunate, Drax added. When this mission concludes, Lieutenant, you will explain how you navigate so effectively without proper intelligence. Murphy nodded, watching as his ghostly guide pointed to a specific panel in the floor, the entry point they needed. I'll explain everything, he promised. But first, let's complete the mission. As they prepared to drop into the hub, Murphy noticed more ghostly figures appearing around them, colony workers, their forms bearing the marks of Vorgan violence. They were trying to help, and Murphy realized with growing unease that soon he would have to reveal his secret to the skeptical Krell. The central hub of the mining colony was surprisingly empty when they dropped down from the ventilation shaft. Only 3 Vorgan guards were present, and the team eliminated them before they could sound an alarm. Secure the doors, Commander Drax ordered, moving to the main control panel. Officer Zex checked the fallen Vorgan soldiers. Strange. Why leave the command center so lightly defended? Murphy scanned the room, noticing with growing unease how many spectral figures now surrounded them. At least a dozen ghostly miners and colony staff stood watching, their expressions urgent. It's a trap, Murphy said suddenly. We need to leave. Now. Drax turned from the control panel. We just arrived at our objective, human. The mission is to secure this hub. The mission is compromised, Murphy insisted. Trust me, we have minutes at most. The wounded Krell warrior growled. Always these feelings with no evidence. Murphy felt a chill as one of the spectral figures, a woman in a colony administrator's uniform, pointed frantically at the ceiling. He looked up and noticed tiny vents running along the edges. "Gas system," he said, pointing. "Not on the original schematics. They're going to flood this room." Zex examined the ceiling. "He's right, Commander. Those are not standard ventilation." Drax moved to the door they had secured, attempting to reopen it. "Locked. Override codes rejected. All exits sealed," reported the other Krell warrior. Communications still jammed. The team fell silent, the reality of their situation sinking in. They were trapped in an airtight room that could be turned into a death chamber at any moment. "How did you know?" Drax demanded, approaching Murphy with menace. "How have you known every danger before it appeared? Are you working with the Vorgan?" "Of course not," Murphy replied, feeling cornered both by the Krell and by the increasingly agitated spirits surrounding them. Officer Zex stepped between them. "Commander, the human has saved our lives multiple times, but there is clearly something he's not telling us." A hissing sound began emanating from the ceiling vents. "Atmospheric change detected," one of the Krell announced. "Oxygen levels dropping." "We have perhaps 20 minutes of breathable air," Zex calculated, checking his equipment. All eyes turned to Murphy. "If you know a way out, now is the time to share it," Drax said, his voice dangerously calm. Murphy looked at the desperate faces of his team, then at the spectral figures gesturing toward a section of flooring beneath a workstation. He made his decision. "I can get us out, but you need to know the truth," Murphy said, taking a deep breath. "I can see the dead." The room went completely silent except for the soft hiss of the vents. "Explain," Drax demanded finally. "The spirits of those who died here, the colony workers killed by the Vorgan. They've been guiding me through the tunnels," Murphy continued. "They're showing me where to go, where the dangers are." The Krell stared at him with expressions ranging from disbelief to anger. "This is your explanation. Ghosts." Drax's voice dripped with contempt. "I know how it sounds," Murphy said, "but it's the truth. I've had this ability since a near-death experience in my first combat mission. The spirits of the fallen sometimes appear to me, especially in dangerous situations." Officer Zex studied Murphy carefully. "And these spirits, they're here now." Murphy nodded. "All around us. They're showing me there's a maintenance access panel under that workstation. It leads to an emergency evacuation tunnel." The wounded Krell warrior made a sound of disgust. "Commander, the human has lost his mind from fear." "Maybe," Murphy acknowledged. "But check under the workstation before we all suffocate." Drax hesitated, then nodded to Zex, who moved the heavy workstation aside. Beneath it was exactly what Murphy had described. A sealed access panel. "This proves nothing," Drax said, even as hope flickered in his yellow eyes. "You could have studied detailed schematics." Murphy met his gaze steadily. "Your brother, Vrex. He died in the Battle of Sirius Prime. His last words were, 'The stars call us home.' You've told no one this." Drax's scales paled dramatically. "How could you possibly know that?" "Because he's standing right beside you," Murphy said simply. "And he wants you to know he's proud of you." Commander Drax stood frozen, his scaled body rigid with shock. The other Krell warriors watched their leader, uncertain how to react to Murphy's impossible knowledge. "You lie," Drax whispered finally, but his voice lacked conviction. No one knew those words. "I'm not lying," Murphy said gently. "Your brother is here. He's been watching over you." The hissing from the vents grew louder as oxygen levels continued to drop. "Commander," Officer Zex interrupted urgently. "We can debate this later. We need to use this access panel now." Drax seemed to snap back to reality. "Open it." Two Krell warriors pried open the panel, revealing a narrow maintenance shaft below. Fresh air rushed up from the opening. "The tunnel leads to the emergency launch bays," Murphy explained, following directions from the ghostly colony administrator. The Vorgan may not have found them yet. You first, Drax ordered, his eyes never leaving Murphy's face. The wounded follow. Zex and I will guard the rear. One by one, they lowered themselves into the shaft. The space was especially tight for the Krell, their broad shoulders scraping against the walls as they crawled. Murphy led the way, following the spirits that moved ahead of him. When they had all entered the shaft and replaced the panel, Drax spoke again, his voice low. "Tell me something else. Something only my brother would know." Murphy paused, listening to the spectral figure moving alongside them. "He says you still carry his battle claw. The one that broke during training when you were juveniles. You had it repaired and keep it in your command quarters." A sound escaped Drax that the translator couldn't interpret, something between a gasp and a growl. "And he says you should have been Brood Leader, not him. Your clutch father was wrong." Drax was silent for a long moment. "These are private matters, not in any database." "I know," Murphy replied simply. They continued crawling through the narrow passage. After several minutes, the shaft widened into a maintenance room filled with equipment. Murphy could see the spirits gathering at a door on the far side. "Through there," he pointed. "It leads to the emergency evacuation base." As they crossed the room, the wounded Krell warrior suddenly collapsed. His breathing labored. "The toxin from the hub," Zex explained, examining him. "It's affecting his respiratory system. We cannot carry him effectively through these passages," Drax stated grimly. "And we cannot leave him." Murphy looked to the spirits for guidance. The ghostly miner pointed to a medical cabinet on the wall. "There," Murphy said, hurrying to the cabinet. Inside, he found emergency breathing apparatus designed for human colonists. "Will this work for Krell physiology?" Zex examined the device. "The filter can be modified." "But how did you know it was there?" "The same way I've known everything else," Murphy replied, helping Zex adjust the apparatus for the wounded warrior. Once the breathing device was secured, they continued to the door. Beyond it lay a short corridor ending at the emergency launch bay, with 5 escape pods still intact. "The Vorgan missed this section," Drax observed. "Or they never expected anyone to find it," Zex added, looking at Murphy with new respect. As they hurried toward the pods, alarm klaxons suddenly blared throughout the colony. The Vorgan had discovered their escape. "2 per pod," Drax ordered. "Launch immediately once boarded." As they prepared to board, Drax pulled Murphy aside. "If what you say is true, if my brother is truly here, ask him one last thing. Ask him what he left in our nest chamber before his final mission." Murphy listened to the spectral figure of Rex, who moved close to his brother. "A scale etching," Murphy answered, "of your clutch mother. He made it himself but never showed you. He left it under your sleeping platform." Drax's eyes widened. His hand moved unconsciously to a pouch at his belt where, Murphy guessed, he now carried that very etching. "It's impossible," Drax whispered. The sound of approaching Vorgan troops echoed down the corridor. "Believe what you want," Murphy said, moving toward the nearest pod. "But right now, we need to go." As they boarded the escape pods, Murphy noticed Drax looking around the empty space beside him, as if trying to see what Murphy could see. The debriefing room aboard the UES Dauntless was unusually crowded. Captain Olivia Grant sat at the head of the table, facing not only Lieutenant Murphy and her human officers, but Commander Drax and the surviving Krell warriors. "Your mission report is unconventional," Captain Grant said, looking down at her tablet. "Commander Drax, you've confirmed Lieutenant Murphy's account." The massive Krell warrior nodded slowly. "The report is accurate. The human demonstrated knowledge that cannot be explained by conventional means." A murmur ran through the human officers. The Krell were known for their rigid rationality, and hearing one support Murphy's claims was unexpected. "Lieutenant Murphy has an ability we do not understand," Officer Zex added. "He knew of dangers before they appeared, found passages that weren't on any schematic, and He hesitated, shared information that could only come from my commander's deceased brother. Captain Grant turned to Murphy. And you maintain that you were guided by the spirits of the dead? Yes, Captain, Murphy replied simply. I've had this ability since the Europa campaign. I've never reported it because it defies rational explanation. Drax finished for him, just as we Krell mocked human beliefs in the immeasurable. Commander Vrax, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. The Krell Imperium has always prided itself on eliminating superstition in favor of verifiable fact. Yet the evidence Lieutenant Murphy presented cannot be dismissed. The room fell silent as Vrax approached Murphy, towering over the seated human. For generations, we have treated human spiritual beliefs as primitive thinking. Vrax continued. I formally apologize for this error. Captain Grant looked stunned. Commander Vrax, this is unexpected. The universe is larger than even Krell science has measured. Vrax replied. Our ancestors spoke of consciousness beyond death. We dismissed these as pre-scientific myths. Perhaps we were wrong. Officer Zex activated a holographic display. With permission, we request to establish a joint research initiative. Krell scientists wish to study human accounts of spiritual phenomena and compare them with our ancient records. Granted, Captain Grant replied, still looking bewildered by this turn of events. As the meeting concluded, Murphy noticed Drax lingering behind. When the others had left, the Krell commander approached him. Is my brother here now? Drax asked quietly. Murphy glanced to his left, where Vrex's spirit stood watching. Yes, he's been with you since we returned. Drax nodded slowly. There is a Krell saying, truth comes on many paths. I believe there was only one path, what could be measured and proven. Now I understand there are truths beyond our instruments. The dead don't always appear, Murphy explained, and I can't control when they come or go. But they're often present in moments of danger or significance. And the human afterlife, is it as your religions describe? Murphy smiled slightly. They don't usually talk about that. I think some truths we're meant to discover for ourselves. Drax extended his hand in the human gesture of respect. The alliance between our peoples will be stronger for this understanding. Different ways of perceiving reality may give us advantages the Vorgan cannot match. After Drax departed, Murphy returned to his quarters. He sat on the edge of his bed, finally alone after the intense mission and questioning. You can show yourselves now, he said softly to the empty room. Slowly, they appeared, not just Sergeant Peters and the colonists from LV-426, but others he had encountered over years of combat. And something new. A Krell warrior with distinctive scale patterns stood among them. Commander Vrex, I presume, Murphy said with a slight nod. The spectral Krell inclined his head in acknowledgement. I never asked for this ability, Murphy told the assembled spirits. But today it helped build a bridge between worlds. The ghostly figures offered no words, but their presence conveyed a sense of purpose and connection. Murphy understood that his role as reluctant messenger between the living and the dead had only just begun. As the spirits gradually faded, Murphy noticed Captain Grant had sent him new orders. He was being reassigned as special liaison to the Krell fleet, cultural advisor with emphasis on spiritual traditions. He smiled wryly at the empty room. I guess we're all going to learn some new truths. In the darkness of space beyond the Dauntless, the war with the Vorgan collective continued. But now, two vastly different species fought side by side with a deeper respect for each other's understanding of reality, and perhaps with guardians from beyond the veil watching over them.